Kat Jennings. Kat is a sarcastic journalist in Final Destination 2 who survives the highway disaster but spends the rest of the film belittling the seriousness of the situation. She constantly mocks other survivors' fear and treats the supernatural threat like it's beneath her intelligence. Her snark and self-centeredness make her ignore every red flag and warning from people trying to help her. When a careless rescue worker accidentally triggers her SUV's airbag, Kat gets violently impaled by a PVC pipe that shoots through the passenger compartment. The pipe goes straight through her head, entering through her eye socket and exiting through the back of her skull. She's conscious for several seconds, aware that something is sticking out of her face before shock and brain damage shut her down. The journalist who thought she was smarter than everyone dies, realizing she was the biggest fool of all. But Kat's arrogance is nothing compared to what happens when you put yourself before others. Which brings us to someone who literally shoved people aside to save herself. Agent Jim Block. Block is an FBI agent in Final Destination 5 who investigates the bridge collapse survivors with aggressive suspicion and zero empathy. He treats innocent people like criminals, constantly accusing them of causing the disasters they're trying to survive. His arrogance makes him dismiss their supernatural warnings as lies or delusions. Block actively interferes with the survivors' attempts to help each other, viewing their cooperation as conspiracy rather than mutual aid. Block's intrusive investigation leads him directly into danger when he refuses to listen to survival warnings. During the bridge collapse sequence, he gets caught in falling debris while chasing after survivors he's supposed to be protecting. A massive steel beam crushes his legs, pinning him to the ground while the bridge continues collapsing around him. He's conscious and aware as more debris falls, slowly burying him alive. The agent who spent the entire film refusing to believe in supernatural danger dies trapped under the very disaster he thought was a hoax. Brian Gibbons. Brian seems like an innocent child in Final Destination 2, but his true nature shows through his reckless behavior and delight in dangerous stunts. He nearly causes several accidents through his cavalier attitude and complete disregard for safety warnings. Despite being young, Brian consistently ignores adults trying to keep him safe and actively seeks out risky situations for entertainment. Brian's recklessness finally kills him at a family barbecue when he tampers with the propane grill despite multiple warnings. The explosion from his own actions blows him apart instantly, but not before he realizes what he's done. The blast incinerates most of his body, while the shrapnel from the grill tears through what's left. The kid who thought danger was fun dies learning that explosions aren't games. Brian's age didn't save him from consequences, and neither did Todd's loyalty, because even the most innocent-seeming people can have it coming. Todd Wagner. Todd is Alex's loyal friend from the original film, shows no apparent character flaws, and dies first after surviving Flight 180. His death scene in the bathroom is designed to look like a suicide to authorities, establishing the series' reputation for cruel randomness. But here's the thing about Todd's actual death. It's a slow, terrifying strangulation where he's fully conscious the entire time. The shower curtain wraps around his neck while he's slipping on water, and he can't get leverage to free himself. Then, the toilet seat falls and tightens the noose even more. Todd experiences every second of suffocating while trapped in his own bathroom, dying in the most humiliating way possible. It's designed to be the worst possible death for someone who just wanted a normal shower. But if Todd was truly innocent, wait until you see what happens to actual teenagers. Speaking of teenagers who maybe had it coming, Tim Carpenter. Tim is a brash teenager who consistently mocks Kimberly's visions and laughs at the idea that death has a design throughout Final Destination 2. He's not just skeptical, he's actively contemptuous of anyone who shows fear or caution. His energetic personality makes him dismiss every warning sign, treating the supernatural threat like it's a joke only stupid people believe in. When that massive glass pane falls on Tim outside the dentist office, it doesn't kill him instantly. The glass cuts through his torso, but he's still conscious, looking down at his own body being sliced in half. He finally realizes all those warnings were real, but only gets a few seconds of absolute terror before bleeding out. The kid who thought he knew everything dies knowing he was completely wrong about everything that mattered. Tim's arrogance killed him, but his mother's death reveals something even darker, because Nora Carpenter's fate shows how death punishes the most human reactions. Nora Carpenter. Nora is dealing with legitimate trauma, and she lost her husband and is raising Tim alone while struggling with overwhelming anxiety. When she gets trapped in that elevator, her panic attack is completely understandable. Her hair gets caught on a hook during the attack, but she's too terrified to think clearly about how to free herself. The elevator lurches and Nora's hair pulls tight against the hook, snapping her neck instantly. But the worst part is the split second before it happens. You can see in her eyes that she knows exactly what's about to occur. She dies with that horrible realization that her own fear just killed her. A mother trying to cope with grief gets decapitated because she had a panic attack in the wrong place. If death punishes grief and fear, imagine what it does to ambition. Which brings us to a gymnast whose perfectionism became her death sentence. Candace Hooper. Candace is completely focused on sticking her landing and perfecting her routine during practice in Final Destination 5. She's so locked into her performance that she doesn't notice the safety equipment malfunctioning around her. Her tunnel vision on achieving excellence blinds her to environmental dangers that would be obvious to someone paying attention to their surroundings. During her routine, Candace's perfectionist focus causes her to land wrong when equipment fails. She completely snaps in half on impact, but would still likely be alive for a short time, giving her one of the most slow and agonizing deaths. Candace's ambition killed her, but at least she cared about something. Unlike Perry, whose complete indifference led to the most random death in the series. Perry Malinowski. Perry couldn't care less about Wendy's warnings throughout Final Destination 3. She dismisses every supernatural sign and shows zero interest in the idea that she might be in danger. Her indifference isn't brave skepticism, it's complete emotional detachment from the reality around her. She treats the mounting evidence like background noise. During the festival scene, Perry is standing in the exact wrong spot when a flagpole breaks loose. The pole spears straight through her chest, lifting her off the ground before slamming her into the ground. She gets a few seconds to look down at the metal rod sticking out of her body before shock sets in. Perry dies, realizing that all those warnings she ignored were desperately trying to save her life. Perry's apathy was deadly, but sometimes caring too much about control is even worse. Just ask Erin, whose independence became her downfall. Erin Ulmer. Erin works at a hardware store and refuses to let paranoia control her life throughout Final Destination 3. Her practical nature makes her trust her own judgment over supernatural warnings. She insists on normalcy and control, refusing to acknowledge that supernatural elements are affecting her environment. When offered help or warnings, she brushes them off as paranoid nonsense. Erin's independence leads her to work alone with malfunctioning equipment. The nail gun starts firing randomly due to supernatural interference, but she keeps trying to fix it herself instead of getting help. Multiple nails fire into her skull and torso before she can react. She dies slowly from the numerous nail in her brain, but not before experiencing the terror of realizing she should have listened to the warnings. Erin's independence killed her, but what about someone who just wanted to forget? Valerie's attempt to erase her trauma led to the most over-the-top death sequence in the original film. Valerie Luton. Valerie is a Flight 180 survivor who tries to erase every memory of that night. She destroys all mementos from the trip and avoids other survivors completely. Her coping mechanism involves isolating herself and suppressing the trauma through avoidance. She refuses to engage with what happened, thinking she can control her healing by controlling her memories. Valerie's isolation triggers an elaborate kitchen death sequence. Water leaks create electrical problems, which cause appliances to malfunction in a cascade of accidents. She gets impaled by a kitchen knife that flies from an exploding blender, then burns alive when the house catches fire from electrical shorts. The woman who tried to forget Flight 180 dies in a domestic disaster that's even more elaborate than the original plane crash. All these deaths seem unfair, but finally we get to someone who actually chose to be evil. Nathan Sears proves that sometimes death really does give people what they deserve. Nathan Sears. Nathan is a factory worker in Final Destination 5 who decides someone else should die so he can live. After researching death's rules, he makes the conscious decision to murder an innocent person to transfer his curse. His paranoia leads him to calculated evil rather than just poor judgment. He values his own life over an innocent person's life and acts on that belief. Nathan orchestrates another person's death and thinks he's beaten the system, but death responds immediately with falling debris from a completely unrelated construction accident. The massive concrete block crushes Nathan instantly, right after he thinks he's safe. He gets maybe 30 seconds of relief before cosmic justice delivers the most satisfying death in the franchise. Nathan got what he deserved, and so did Julia Campbell, because cutting safety corners isn't just stupid, it's criminal. Julia Campbell. Julia is an opportunist in Final Destination, Bloodlines who cut safety protocols to save time and cover her tracks following a disaster. She deliberately creates dangerous situations for coworkers and the public to benefit herself. Her corner cutting isn't just laziness, it's willful endangerment of innocent people for personal gain. Julia's disregard for safety leads her straight into a garbage truck compactor. The crushing mechanism activates while she's inside, and she experiences every second of being slowly compressed. The machine doesn't kill her quickly. She's aware of her bones breaking and organs rupturing as the walls close in. Julia dies knowing that her selfish shortcuts led directly to the most claustrophobic death imaginable. Julia deserved it, but the next two took manipulation to a whole new level. Sam and Molly's story reveals the franchise's ultimate punishment for denial. Sam Lawton and Molly Harper. Sam and Molly are the leads from Final Destination 5 who refuse to accept supernatural warnings despite overwhelming evidence. They consistently dismiss dismiss visions and supernatural signs throughout their entire film. Their stubborn insistence on normalcy becomes active resistance to survival. They don't just ignore warnings, they fight against them. The ultimate irony is that Sam and Molly's denial leads them directly onto Flight 180 from the original film. They board the doomed plane thinking they've escaped their fate, only to become part of the franchise's original disaster. They die in the plane explosion that started the entire series, making their prequel story a closed loop of cosmic justice. Sam and Molly's denial doomed them, but manipulation and betrayal earn even worse fates. Which brings us to Stephanie and Charlie, whose log truck callback delivers perfect justice. Stephanie and Charlie Reyes. Stephanie and Charlie use manipulation and betrayal to survive in Final Destination: Bloodlines. Their strategy involves deliberately harming other survivors for personal benefit. They exploit other people's fear and trust to evade death's reach. Their survival comes at a moral cost that crosses them into villain territory. Death delivers perfect ironic justice by killing them with a log-filled train, a direct callback to the franchise's most iconic near-death experience. The logs crush them instantly in exactly the same way that terrorized audiences in Final Destination 2. Stephanie and Charlie die by the franchise's most famous imagery, making their betrayal earn the most recognizable death sequence. Everyone we've covered actually died, but there's one person who truly deserves it and never gets it. William Bloodworth has guided every group to their doom and never faced consequences. William Bloodworth. Bloodworth is the mortician who appears across multiple Final Destination films, providing cryptic guidance that leads to deaths rather than prevention. He profits from funeral services while withholding life-saving information. His knowledge of death's design, combined with his refusal to genuinely help, makes him complicit in every tragedy. He guides groups toward doom while benefiting financially from their deaths. Bloodworth represents the ultimate cosmic injustice. He's the one character who truly understands death's rules, but uses that knowledge for profit instead of helping victims. He's collaborated with death across multiple films, enabling tragedies while remaining completely untouchable. The franchise's most evil character never faces any consequences for his actions. Bloodworth remains untouchable while everyone else pays the price. If you want to see the most brutal deaths in Stranger Things, click the video on the screen.